And I'm also skipping to give any biodata of mine. It is available on the Wikipedia, if you can see. I just wanted to tell you that this year I complete 57 years of having spent in nuclear engineering. 57 years ago, I joined BARC, and I was in the Baba Atomic Research Center Cyrus reactor operations side, and then it was a long journey. It was not there has not been a single day lower that I haven't done something or other nuclear in the last 57 years. Often it has been a headache to somebody else. Now, let's come to the topic. I was thinking what exactly to say. There are so many things that one can talk about, and so many areas where action is required, and you cannot cover all of them. So I thought I'll just say, last 1 year, frankly, I have been not writing any article, but just watching what this new government will do, because I finished all my writing with the last 3 articles on Kudangulam reactor and its fate, and whatever we thought will happen is happening right in front of our eyes. And I was hoping that the Modi government would, now when I look back, I think I was foolish. I thought that the new government will take some actions to steer the nuclear program in a different direction and towards a healthier program. But that has not taken place. And not surprisingly, whatever Manmohan Singh had done, it has only been accelerated further. Coming to I'll start from Fukushima, but I will not go into any of the details because I just mainly wrote this talk sitting in the hotel room yesterday, day before. As you know, the Fukushima accident happened in March 2011, and immediately afterwards, several countries who are actively involved in nuclear projects and nuclear programs have taken, they were sort of shocked into taking a relook at their nuclear plans, and many of them did corrective action. The only country which you see still racing with, 2 of them, of course, including us, racing with the nuclear program is one is China. The other is, we are also trying to imitate that. But what we don't realize is that after Fukushima, I was invited and I have been to China for 3 times to take part in meetings to discuss post-Fukushima actions. And during those visits, I found that indeed there's a lot of opposition to nuclear power within China, but much of it doesn't come out. It's an entirely different system. But unfortunately, we shouldn't be suffering from that because we are in a so-called democracy where people should be allowed to speak, people should be listened to. And whether everybody can be satisfied or not, you should be seen to be reacting to the people's demands. But that's also not happening. Now, coming to a few other countries and the actions taken, Germany, as this morning we discussed, just immediately after Fukushima, Germany decided that 7 or 8 of their nuclear plants will be immediately shut down. And they did that. And then the government decided that by 2022, they will phase out all the remaining nuclear power plants, and they have even put a timeline how they will proceed. And they are sticking to that program. Now, someone interjected this morning and said, no, but they are getting power from France. They have been getting it for quite some time from other parts of Europe. That doesn't make them... what I'm saying is they have not put their money to build more reactors, and the ones they have built, they are shutting them down according. You have to give some credit to them for that. The France, which is hell bent on selling their EPR reactors to India, are themselves, their parliament has passed a law according to which by May 2015 is when this law was passed, and they are planning to, by 2025, they want to bring their share of the nuclear power in their electricity production from the current 75% to 50%. And they also have put a roadmap how they are going to get there. And the French Parliament, simultaneously in the same law, has also fixed that 40% of their electricity production by 2030 will be from renewables. And in that part of Europe, whether it's in Germany or France, when we talk about renewables, to a great extent, it's also wind power and not really solar. I mean, in our case, when you hear renewable, we first thing which comes to our mind is solar, because this is a sunshine state here, a country here. But Germany, for example, the northern part of Germany gets very strong winds a good portion of the year, and they have enough wind power in that region. Anyway, this is what these two did. These two countries have did, and many others who are proceeding towards setting up nuclear plants have paused, and in the meantime, luckily the cost of nuclear power is exponentially rising, so many of them are giving it up. Only we are not doing it, and we seem to act when it comes to nuclear power as if we have an enormous store of money and we can just keep on, let the price be whatever it is, that India is hell-bent on going for nuclear power, which I really cannot understand. But when you look at the past history and how we reached here, it is clear why we are doing it. There is definitely an underlying thread of commonality between the UPA government and NDA government. Those who are supporting this entire policy are really in the industries, in those who plan to make enough money out of this program, and also their friends abroad who are also tied in more strongly these days than earlier. Now, one cannot talk about all these problems we are facing with Jaitapur, Kudankulam, and all that without also saying a word about the Indo-US nuclear deal. Because the entire trouble with nuclear power, which we are seeing in this country, started with the Indo-US nuclear deal, which, in my thinking, and I was very much involved with the people and who were opposing the Indo-US nuclear deal, not because it was the US, because I spent 20 years in the US myself and I studied there. So, but it was very clearly a question of, even though it was explained that Mr. Singh, Manmohan Singh, wanted to get India out of the nuclear pariah status, the intent was really not that. There were many forces who came together to engineer the Indo-US nuclear deal. One of whom just got Padma Bhushan, Robert Blackwell, who was US ambassador at that time. And there were, as usual, there were a group of industrialists in the US who were pushing it. There were a group of industrialists here. There were quite a number of politicians in this country belonging to all different parties who all were supportive. The industrial federations and confederations and all that in this country even went to the extent of putting their money and lobbying in the US Congress to get this deal passed. Our own government at that time spent some money to convince congressmen that it is good if they support this deal, etc. So I think it was a very integrated effort for the good of all, good of all of them, rather, not for the good. And they eventually succeeded. What is surprising is that in a democracy like ours, the prime minister and the cabinet, a lot of people, the cabinet frankly didn't know much. And there were times when the Atomic Energy Commission or the people involved in it, those who were, there was a small subset of the Atomic Energy Commission who were with the prime minister, and they engineered everything. The rest of the commission was in the dark, and so it was very cleverly managed deal. Now, coming to the crux of it, it was presented to Parliament that there are two sides to it. We get something out of it, and they will get something. But what they will get was not spelt out anywhere. And what they wanted later on, it turned out that the Manmohan Singh government at that time, the foreign secretary, has written a letter in 2007, thereabout, to the US State Department in writing, promising that a minimum of 10,000 megawatt of US reactors will be bought. We are committing that we will buy those reactors. And both, surprisingly, the similar agreement, even though the document, the French people were very subtle, they never released any documents. Even this agreement on the buying of the reactors by India came out only because the US Congress, in a Senate hearing, asked the direct question to Condoleezza Rice, who was Secretary of State at that time, what do we gain from this deal? And she answered right away that I have a letter here from the Indian Foreign Secretary that they will buy at least 10,000 megawatt. And then he rattled off how many jobs it will create in US industry and all that kind of thing. And she also added that this is the beginning of the lineup, and we expect to get more business out of India. And of course, that caused a temporary furor here because, in spite of repeated statements in Parliament, the Prime Minister of India had never told this to the Parliament or to the people. So we all came to know it from Condoleezza Rice talking in Washington. Later, it was known, even though I don't have the associated papers or reference, that French President Sarkozy and the Prime Minister had met 2-3 times, and in those agreements, there's always a foreign ministry approach of a side letter, and there were some side letters which were signed by the two chiefs, in which also similar promise was made to buy French reactors. The French were at that time had just finished paper design of the EPR, and they insisted that these are the reactors that we want you to buy. And those reactors, there was no reactor existing then, and surprisingly, even today, there is no reactor existing of that kind, EPR. It has run into all kinds of problems, as you know. So, I mean, how can a country which, at that time prides itself of having a AERB, Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, Department of Atomic Energy and all that, just 3-4 guys in government make up the mind what type of reactor we are going to buy without an economic evaluation, without a technical evaluation, and without having even a reactor to look at. Nowhere it existed. Then today, a few rattling ones, 2 or 3, 1, 2, and 2, 4. 4 reactors of that kind are struggling to get started and in deep trouble. The earliest one we expect to see in 2017 if it ever gets started. So this is what happened. Now, what was the thing that he promised that we will get? The Prime Minister said that India, if you people, his appeal was to the parliamentarians of our parliament. If you would all agree and we are able to pass this deal through, the Americans have promised us all nuclear technologies, whichever we want, on a a joint technology transfer basis. And that was something which ever since 1971 nuclear explosion, we have not received. We have never had an offer of that kind. And so this was something which the carrot which the Prime Minister was. And I think on that part of it, he was really fooled by the Americans, because he honestly believed that this will take place. And why did we want a transfer of technology? Because in spite of all the chest beating and capability projection that India has been doing, India is really weak in two areas. One is the uranium enrichment process, and the other is the reprocessing of spent fuel, which will be the extraction of plutonium. Both are in a way related also to nuclear weapons program, but they are also very close parts of nuclear power expansion, if you want. So I think, and these are technologies which nobody will easily part with, because there will always be the suspicion that it will be used for bomb making. Now, here is a country which had already in 1996, 98 had gone through Pokhran 2. So an established mini nuclear weapon state. And the Americans are yielding to give these two technologies. So it looked like really a victory for Manmohan Singh. And that's why the parliament also agreed. Now, what exactly happened is, so we promised to buy reactors, some 40,000 megawatt worth. Ultimately, it turns out, Kakodkar said this. And they promised to, through normal commercial terms, to give us the ENR, what is called ENR technologies, enrichment and reprocessing technologies. And then this that they will release these technologies was also written down in the what is called the 123 agreement between the two countries, which then later went to the Congress and got passed. So for all appearances, it has been signed and sealed. But what the Americans themselves did the day after Indian Parliament passed it, and the nuclear suppliers group had given us the clearance to, okay, now you can import reactors. The importing of foreign reactors was cleared and it was acted on, and that thing was all going forward. And the Americans, within the next 2 months of this signing of the deal, specifically approached the nuclear suppliers group and said that, no, I think we are of the view that this ENR technologies, the reprocessing and enrichment technologies, should not be given to any country which is not a signatory of the NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, that is one thing that we have steadfastly refused to sign all these years. And knowing that we are not an NPT nation, the US Congress had agreed to, didn't put any bar on that, when, as long as we were still working on the deal, US deal. And in any way, I think ultimately it's very clear that the government was hoodwinked, or everybody together, this was a drama that was played on the people of India, one of the two. But there were some rumblings. The foreign secretary wrote a letter to the Americans saying this is you're going back on your word, etc. But by then, the Manmohan Singh government, UPA 2, was already in trouble here with all the corruption cases piling up and all that. And therefore, they didn't even reply those letters and didn't take anything seriously. So there ends the story, and then came the election, then we have the new government. Now, therefore, as I see it, the present government has a legitimate reason to say that this is a fait accompli. These agreements were intergovernmental agreements signed with other countries, and as a continuing government here, we have to respect or agree to these agreements. That is one view. But if I were looking at the national interest, one could also argue that, look, this was a two-way agreement. There was something that you were to give us, and there was something we had to do. And you are part of it. You have backed off, and therefore I'm not going to proceed with the agreement to buy reactors from these three countries, that is Russia, France, and the United States, until this question of ENR technology is simultaneously handled and corrected. And there is a very legitimate way that one can internationally stop buying these reactors. But I was under the impression that this government will take that route. But I think the industrial forces and the people who are behind pushing these deals have been much more powerful and influential, and that did not take place. And with added force, we are moving forward. In the recent visit of Hollande, earlier, which was the agreement, Manmohan Singh's time had only agreed to purchase of two EPRs for Jetapur. It has been enhanced unilaterally by India to 6, and a reactor which is yet to be built, yet to be commissioned, and their own French national nuclear regulator, ASN, who I would put as one of the world's best nuclear regulators. And those people, today, that reactor is under grave threat of being closed completely, because the last thing that, in the meantime, they managed to sell 2 of these reactors to China also. And China has been building it, but the Chinese 2 reactors in China and the 2 which are to be built probably 8 years from now in Hinkley Point in the UK, all of them have the same deficiency in forging. And America has some of the world's best forge shops there, and even they have missed it because it is a very difficult geometry, and in the forging there has been some inclusions and which are weak points. And the regulator is of the view that at this particular place where there are inclusions in the forging, that it could burst under high pressure. So if that happens, then of course the whole reactor will melt down. Therefore, he is holding it until a final test and confirmation is done. But the indications are that most likely it will not pass. Then that will be a disaster for the French nuclear program as a whole, because already Arreva's shares have come down to rock bottom. Arreva has been sold to Electricity de France, EDF, has bought it, and both of them together will sink, and this will be a big blow to that, and the UK order will go. I don't know what the Chinese will do, but they will have to change the reactor. So I think with this kind of a cloud hanging over this reactor, that how can somebody go in April, or I don't know when he went, April I think, our Prime Minister was, he was there. And 3-4 days before that, the French regulator, ASN, had actually informed the NPCL people, because they have AERB people. AERB and ASN have a working cooperative agreement. So they felt obliged that this thing should be known to the AERB before the Prime Minister's visit. And then similarly, the Arreva people had informed the NPCIL people. So, and they thought that by doing this, we have sufficiently kept the Indian government in the circuit, that they will do whatever they want. At least they will not blame us later that we didn't tell you. But surprisingly, I don't know whether the news went up to the PMO or not, but ultimately the Prime Minister took a decision which was very surprising. That group which went to France took a decision to enhance it from 2 to 6 reactors. But there is, if you look at the fine print, I think it says that the actual construction will be pushed to 2017 beginning. which will give sufficient time to get a final answer from the French regulator. And so there is, I mean, it's not yet time for the champagne bottles to open in France yet, because that will be only after 2017. And our commitment will also be only start. So what has been signed is really to do some preliminary contractual work and all that, which is, but even that could have been avoided. But then the Rafale and all that is in the air. So I think we didn't want to antagonize them. I have only 5 minutes, I was told. So let me just tell you that what concerns me is this constant talk about Make in India being applied to nuclear programs is the most dangerous thing to do. What we have, without saying it, what we have done in Kudankulam is a Make in India approach. The approach, really, the Prime Minister's approach is, frankly, you're getting into buying something which is enormously costly with no justification for buying that for electricity production. And yet you want to tell the whole country that, oh no, but I'm bringing down the cost of this by letting Indian industry make it. Now that is precisely something which was without making all these statements. The Manmohan Singh government also tried to do that in Kudankulam. And Kudankulam Unit 1, ultimately the erection and commissioning part of the job was completely taken over by the Indian side, NPCIL, and it was given to the local major contractors who have been waiting to get a piece of that money. And this is the problem. There is we have built about 27 PHW, 22 PHWRs, the pressurized heavy water reactors. So I would say that they are quite competent in that technology, because over a period of time they made chota mistakes, bigger mistakes, and then they have sort of mastered that part. But as a reactor, PHWR and VVER, the Kudankulam reactors, are considerably different, and the kind of standards, methods used in construction are not same. But when the Indian contractors were given this job of erection and commissioning, they followed their instincts, which they got from the PHWR days, and they have got into trouble. There's no time to explain to you, but Sundaram and Uday Kumar and all of us have discussed this at length. So those problems, and I had warned them that what's going to happen is that these reactors, you may get them started, but it'll be very foolish. After some time, the inside will all be radioactive, and you cannot even go and inspect those parts or change those parts. And therefore, if they are to be changed or inspected, it should be done before you start up. But they were in a rush to start it up, and started up. They did big fanfare and whatnot, and now it has, that 80% of the time it has been down. The unit has been down. And I can bet you that in the long run, it will end up being one of the most dangerous nuclear reactors in India, because we really don't know what kind of parts have gone in. We try to save money by not doing inspection of all these components which were bought from Russia, because it would have cost us heavy. There was almost a proven case of corruption in material procurement, not by us, but by Russians. And a lot of those parts have got into the Kudankulam reactor. So one is not at all sure which part of that reactor is going to break down on what day. So I think we have gotten to this fix because of this kind of thing. Now, when we go to Jaitapur, we are trying to do this from the first reactor onwards. We want to do it jointly. That means some company in India will make the forging even. And the French people may be very relieved, because they themselves are not able to make those forgings. And here Indians are coming and giving a large amount of money and say, we will make it. So fine, you make it. But the question is, underneath all this, what is the use of, who is going to have the liability? When it finally fails, They would say that you guys said you'd in this kind of joint deals where you are doing half, somebody else is doing half. You should also think then the final product, who is going to hold guarantee for the final product. That is not there even in the case of Kudangulam, because now we have taken on part of the work and they have done part of the work, and yes, as long as it works, it's fine. But if it fails, everybody will give it up. So I think that's the story of that. And so I don't know. I am like all of you. I am also only watching, because at my age, I'm not going to run around and stand there. But we have to try somehow to impress on this government. Just saying stop all nuclear power, etc., will not go well with this. And along with that, if you also say that this is all because we are also opposed to nuclear weapons, that's it. Then I think everybody will be dubbed as anti-national. Yeah, and yeah, that's why so I think strategically, if I am in the opposing side, I would not raise the issue of nuclear weapons at all in the same breath as nuclear power. Nuclear power by itself, the power plants have enough, is going to cause enough problems to the Indian public, and I think we should fight that alone. So we'll watch where the Make in India is going in this case, and in the meantime, I'm finding that none of the newspapers will accept any reasonable articles written even without any bias. If you write it in these issues, they no longer want it. But 2 years or 3 years ago, they would have put 1,600-word articles. Now you cannot even get an 800-page article on 800-word article into one of these newspapers. So there's a block of media opposition against protesters is also building up. I think in a nutshell, everybody's getting bought out little by little. So I can only say that you'll have to join me in wishing luck to all of you.